What's up, guys? Ashby at Ashby Farms, and it is absolutely freezing. So this morning, it's 18 degrees here in the barn. It's 20 degrees outside, starting to warm up a little bit. As you can see from the angle of the sun here, it's about 7:30 or so. This is the third day in a row. I believe today is the 21st of February. My plans for the season are all shot to pieces. Kind of a quick rundown of what I've been doing here at the workbench. The last week or so, I've been cutting pieces for double screen boards. They are inaccessible now. And then back behind here, last 2 days, I built 200 lids, 10 frame lids here. So as you can see in the barn, running out of room. We've got pieces cut here and here. That's 230 boxes, 10 frame boxes. That's going to be the next project after the lids get done today. And that's part of farming is rainy days. It snowed the last 2 days. Anytime it rains, stuff like that, you just have to make the best use of your time and be effective with your time. So let's get into the calendar year. Man, I did a previous video about the bee year, the bee calendar. Hopefully this will help you out as a new beekeeper. But my plans are kind of all shot. And by that, I really mean we're about 10 days behind schedule now. I'd hoped to get into my bees on about February the 7th, and it was very, very rainy. And then we've just continued to get super cold weather and lots of rain. And I mean, my F350 is 9,500 pounds. We've got 2 totes of syrup on it right now, which is another 5,000 pounds. So we're looking at a 15,000 pound vehicle. If I attempt to get into our bee yards, I'm gonna rut up the landowners' yards and driveways and all the access points. With that much weight, it'll just sink into the mud. And if you go introducing thin syrup, 1-to-1 right now, it's really not going to do the bees any good. Not to mention you're breaking the propolis seal. When you can see an extended forecast like this, the best thing to do is just wait. A big risk right now is if your bees don't have enough weight in them, then there's a chance of starvation right now. So in our case, we feed really heavy. We feed a lot of syrup in the fall, and that enables them to go ahead and store it in the combs. And then as long as there's enough weight there in the fall, I don't really tend to worry about. I still haven't seen my bees or been in them since October the 20th, I think was the last day I was in the bee in any bees. So we're just waiting. We're supposed to get into warmer weather this weekend starting tomorrow. And hopefully we'll make our way out of this cold spell for good. And then we can get a start to the bee season. I know from talking to many, many friends, people who have been in their bees previously, beginning of February, we had a little warm week there. And I just opted not to get into them at that point. So the bees were already wanting to rear brood. The silver maples had started to bloom, but red maples have been blooming, yet the bees have not had a single day, to my knowledge, in order to get out and work them here around Burlington. And that's really a bad thing because when we look at a nutrition schedule, we get red maple in February, which is a high quality pollen. We get dandelion in March, high quality pollen. We get tulip poplar in April and May, which is fantastic. I mean, a lot of our colonies will make 5 or 6 frames of pollen during that time of the year. So then we'll get another pollen flow, September and October with aster and goldenrod. So our bees never really go more than 4 or 5 months without a nice pollen flow. And during those long periods, they've had, previously enough pollen to get them through. Of course, pollen is your protein that bees need for all the amino acids, and carbs come from sugar or glucose or fructose or whatever you're feeding them. So, and bees, just like people, they need both. Many of you have heard about the big bee die-off. I speculate you've got 2 issues. You've got nutrition deficiencies, and then also Amitraz is widely used, and Amitraz is showing ineffectiveness. And if we do have varroa mites that do show resistance to Amitraz, the best thing you can do is change up to something else. Oxalic acid, OAV in the winter is really effective. If you're going to do OAV while they've got brood, you need to do 4 rounds 5 days apart. 4 grams per deep box is what Bob Benny says. I know that's not approved on the label, but it makes sense to me. Formic acid, thymol, anything like that, just something else to kill off all the mites in the colony, and then the mites that come back around are more than likely to be or are more than likely not to be Amitraz resistant. So if you've been using Amitraz for a long time, that's Apivar. Amitraz is the active ingredient. Then I would encourage you try using something else just once. So with that bee calendar year, let's dive in. I know that's a lot. It's kind of catching you up on to the what's going on around here, and obviously the industry news. There's lots of videos out there about a lot of the colony die off. I know a guy who's only got 43 out of 450 that he went into winter with. That's a 90% die off. I know another guy who he runs about 700, but he had a separate load of 100 that went to Michigan. They came back. They'd been treated with Formic twice, and January 16th, he had basically 100 out of 100. And by February the 5th, went and checked on him. There was only 35 out of 100, so he lost 65 out of those 100. So this is a very real thing. These are both North Carolina beekeepers. I call them commercial guys, and I respect both of their opinions. So obviously, the bee industry is just taking a big 20-year hit right now. I hope I'm not taking that same hit. We will find out this weekend. As far as the calendar year goes, calendar year now. So this is Burlington area. This goes for, basically our weather here. If you draw a straight line from North Georgia to Virginia Beach, that weather pattern is basically going to be the same. So that's like Gastonia, Charlotte, Salisbury, Lexington, Burlington, North Raleigh, on out to Virginia Beach. Just if you're anywhere along that belt line, your timeline's probably going to be the same. So when we think about a bee year, the bees right now that did start any brood, many beekeepers are already reporting the last couple of days that a lot of the brood that they started at the beginning of February has frozen or chilled brood, as it's called, and the bees are already cleaning it out. It's a false spring. We don't tend to worry about that so much. They'll cannibalize it if they really need to for the protein. Once we get in, we'll start feeding them. Spring will take off. Red maples are in bloom. Pollen will start coming in this weekend as soon as we get this little warm spell for the next 5 days. Red maple pollen is really the kickoff for the year. The bees still need time to grow and expand. And whether you've got 10 hives or whether you've got 10,000 hives, the goal is that in an apiary, when you come out of winter, you want to get them all equalized as quick as possible. So easy methods to equalize is swapping the actual physical hives in place of a strong hive for a weak hive, that kind of thing. Basically, the foraging force will go home to the weak hive. It sets back the strong hive a little bit. Another way we can accomplish this is swapping brood around. Brood frames. So the goal will be to probably get 4 frames of brood by this time. Surprisingly, even with the cold, if the cluster size was big enough, they will rear brood and keep it warm. Even in the cold, it's not a big deal. So we may get into and find, even without my influence, they've already kind of kicked off and taken off. The fertilizer really is thin syrup and a pollen patty. I am following, there was a publication out of the University of Montana, 2019. It was cited yesterday on the 20th on the Commercial Beekeepers page. If you want to look at the study, it shows the effectiveness of using bananas in the colony as it's a pretty long paper, but the long and short was, with brand new packages, if they gave them a banana, don't open feed it, you put it in the colony, They came back 30 days later. And by the way, the banana sliced right down the middle with the peel and the banana. You want to slightly overripe, so like spots on the peel, but not black. You don't want it so tough they can't absorb it. But the claim was that they'll eat the peel and all. And they looked at the addition of potassium and other minerals in the study. And what they found at the end of 30 days on brand new packages is there was 18% more brood, 18.1% more brood on average. So I've been discussing this with a couple commercial friends, and it's something I'm willing to try. Bananas are really cheap. I don't think it's going to hurt anything, and they didn't find any residual banana behind. Basically, it tells you that they're using the banana to feed the young larva and increase the overall health of those individual bees, which then leads to the health of the superorganism. So it's something I'm going to try this year. Obviously, if we can get 18% more brood to rear up, we just might, in fact, catch up from this being 10 days, 2 weeks behind in order to hit our target delivery date for our nukes, which when we started the season was the 25th of April. It may be pushed back to May 1st, just depends on how long this cold snap lasts. Nothing, as far as the bee calendar goes, changes though. The bees still have to have time to brood up. They still have to fill out a single box. Then they have to fill out a double. Then we come back and we take splits. All of these events are 10 days apart, 2 weeks apart. You have to give them time to grow. It's not magic, it's not overnight. Certain colonies will outperform others. There's always powerhouses, and then there's not. And so mark your ones that aren't, mark your ones that have problems. When we think about queen rearing, man, this video is actually for a guy online, and he cited my last video from 2 years ago on the North Carolina State Beekeepers page. He was getting ready to, this is his first year getting ready to graft, and he was going by my timeline, and he was getting ready to rear brood. There is no need to even start thinking about grafting until you're starting to see drones at best capped, and hopefully you're going to see drones. People get in a real big hurry to start making spring splits. Think of it this way. It would really suck to go through all the time and effort to create a cell builder, manipulate that, then go and graft, because you're going to have to find a warm enough weather window during one particular day to graft real fast. And then you come back and you make a bunch of splits, and then so that's resources from other colonies, and then you put a viable cell in there, and the virgin queen emerges, and everything up to that point is fantastic. And then there's no drones to go mate with. That queen doesn't go on, a third mating flight, second mating flight. Like, you missed the window. You mistimed it because you were in a hurry. So that's one thing about us. We have lots. North Carolina has plenty of fantastic small bee outfits like ourselves. And it seems to me like, people are always in a hurry. And I tell people this, if you're in a hurry to buy something, someone will always fill your need. Somebody will always meet that demand. But once you buy it, it's not their problem anymore. It's your problem. And it's because you were in a hurry. With that in mind, I run my outfit like this. We're going to make many, many more nukes than what we sell. And so if you don't buy my product, that product is now my problem. I'm not going to create problems for myself. So I've always said this. I'm 2 weeks later on my nuke date delivery than my competition. Proudly. I don't make my own stock for a full month after that. I make my queens in May. And you often wonder, well, why is that? Well, people are in a big hurry. It's spring. I got to get my tomato plants in the ground. Like, it's spring fever. And beekeeping is definitely subject to that. I encourage even new beekeepers, don't be in a hurry. The first year, you're more than likely not gonna make honey unless you get a summer crop. That queen, you get one chance for that queen to get a quality mating flight, and you want there to be enough flight time. Picture this. If it's I usually try not to introduce my virgins till about the 25th or 26th of March on a normal year. So we might be April 1st this year, just really weather depending. But on March 26th, you might have a 4-hour weather window in the afternoon from 12 to 4 where it's warm enough for the drones and the queens to get out. And even at that point, if we look at mid-May has peak drone saturation, right? 100%. Well, then March 26th, you're lucky if you have 30 or 40% of those same numbers of drones in the air. It's just due to simply there's not enough drones in the air. The colonies aren't big enough. If you go for March 15th, you're probably 20% of the drones in the air. Just those 10 days. So every day in March that ticks by, there's that many more drones in the air, which makes queens that much better mated, which in the long term is less headaches for you. I encourage people, use whatever methods you can use to deter or stay mating your queens. One thing you can do is you can take all your splits. You can, like, say it's the 16th of March and you just feel like this colony is booming. Swarm prevention methods are put all the brood in the bottom box of a double deep. Interrupt the brood nest with a blank foundation frame. Give them the feeling of unaccomplishment. Leave one frame of eggs in the second box so the bees want to go upstairs to the second box and take care of them. If you've done all that, let's say it's warm enough and your colony's still just a super powerhouse and you just feel like I can't wait any longer and to make a split. You could monitor the colony every 5 or 6 days to see when they develop swarm cells. Usually the bees will know best, and oftentimes that'll help. If you're inexperienced and you don't know what a really packed out colony looks like, that's okay. Let the bees tell you. When they start making swarm cells, then find your queen. If you're monitoring every 5 days, that's pretty good. You start seeing swarm cells develop. Okay, it's time to make a split. Another thing you can do is go ahead and make your split. Come back before 10 days later, so day 7, 8, 9, after making a split, and tear down the emergency cells. Then you've got about another week until they start, so they're hopelessly queenless when you tear down the cells. So after, let's say, 7 days post making that split, you tear down the cells. You got about till day 14 till they start realizing, we don't have any chance. And then drone laying worker is going to be your next issue. So what you could do is you go in there and tear down your emergency cells, let's say on day 9. They're hopelessly queenless, and then you pick your favorite colony that you want to graft from or split from, and just take a frame of eggs out of that one colony. Then you've got the queen right pheromone, so it delays the drone laying worker, and now it's another 10 days till they raise a queen from those eggs or those larvae, and then that queen hatches out. So you've done a 20-day delay or a 19-day delay with this method. Then that queen goes out on a mating flight. Well, if you get to March 15th and you do a 20-day delay, it's April 4th when that virgin queen goes out. There's so many more drones in the air. There's delay tactics that can be used if you just absolutely have to make a split. I'm just trying to think. I mean, at scale, we can't do that. But if you're a backyard beekeeper, perfect. Our nectar flow has come right on time, about April the 15th, April 20th here in Burlington every year. So we know it's going to start then. Have your swarm control methods already done ahead of time. Go ahead and set back those strong colonies. And then I still expect, despite this cold weather, spring will start right on time. So have your honey supers on. You don't want them to pack out the brood box. If you use a queen excluder, have your queen excluder on. Just use any method you can. And then the rest of the year is kind of back to normal. We start taking honey in the beginning of June. It takes us about a month to get it all off. And then our bees are up in the mountains for sourwood. And then it takes us about 3 weeks to get all the honey home. And then get the bees home before Labor Day, before hurricane season. Another big thing I'm doing differently this year is just using oxalic acid vaporization all year long. So every time I'm in a yard, and I'm going to do a separate video on this, but every time I'm in a yard, plus I'm going to do 4 rounds 5 days apart in May, 4 rounds 5 days apart in August, and 4 rounds 5 days apart in December. And basically the bees will never go more than 4 months without getting a full mite treatment. And this is on the bulk of our colonies, not our breeder stock, but our breeders go 2 years untreated. I really like that method. It sucks because we lose a lot of colonies doing it that way, but we really find the creme de la creme. So that's a whole other talk. But for what keeps my bread and butter on the table, the majority of our colonies, they are treated. And I should caution with this. We run a mite resistant stock. I'm going to be doing a lot of testing and results this year. What I don't want to do is convince people at home who don't have mite resistant stock that, oh yeah, OAV is the way to work, and then they do it, and then all your bees die, and then you're mad at me. So I would encourage you to just follow along. I'm going to do a lot of sampling on the same 50 or so colonies, and we're going to do a before and after in May and a before and after in August on these same colonies and document it and just see how effective between mite resistant stock and OAV. Are we looking at mite free bees where they're managing them themselves, or is OAV helping, or is it not working at all, nor is the mite resistance? We will find out. The numbers won't lie. So that's one of my projects I'm going to be focusing my time on this year. Anyways, guys, I know it's a long rant, but the year is really screwed up. With that, I got another 100 lids to build here today. As you can see right here on my porch, that's the last of the stock right there for pieces for the lids. So to the air nailers I go, and I hope you have watched this far. If you appreciate the content, please subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks, guys. Bye.